Hi everyone, this is AJ. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new review, a subscriber recommendation review. Yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? Yeah, so as you can see, the film I am going to be reviewing here is Memoirs of an Invisible Man. This is a film that I do have in my collection. Picked it up a little while ago, pretty cheap, but it's a film that I haven't seen for a couple of decades, I'll be honest. So I have no real recollection of it at all whatsoever. Well, I didn't. Obviously, I've watched it. So I know it now, but before that I had no recollection of it. So Joseph Grant, who's one of my subscribers, someone who I chat to times, he leaves me messages and that, he's been asking me now for a couple of weeks to review this, and I said I would get around to it, and I certainly have. Now this is my second review I'm doing of it, because I actually recorded a review before and deleted it before I uploaded it. Luckily I hadn't edited it together, so all I'm doing is re-recording. Yeah, so hopefully this one goes a bit better than the last one. Yeah, so anyway, let's talk about Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Okay, so this film, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, as we've already established, this film came out in 1992. Here in the UK, it was released on May the 15th of that year. The film had a PG-13 rating, that's the US rating for it obviously, and it had a runtime of 1 hour and 39 minutes and a budget of $40 million. Now this film was directed by John Carpenter, but unlike his other films where usually you have like John Carpenter's The Thing, John Carpenter's Escape from LA, John Carpenter's The Fog, this one doesn't have John Carpenter's name above the title because essentially he was a director for hire for this film as opposed to it being his film. Yeah, so this film is based on a book by writer H.F. Saint. Now this book, the book of this was actually released only a few years before, really, in 1987. It's the only book that this author has to his name that's been published. So a one-done deal for him, really. Yeah, but obviously it was bought as a film. I think they paid about $1.5 million for the book, the film company, to get that. Now the film stars Chevy Chase as Nick Holloway, Daryl Hannah, as you would know from Splash and things like that. Kill Bill she was in as well, wasn't she? As Ali Monroe. Sam Neill stars as David Jenkins, and Michael McKean plays one of Nick Holloway's friends in it. Michael McKean, he's one of these actors that you would recognise, and more recently he's actually been in Better Call Saul. Yeah, that's where I primarily know him from, but I know he's in other stuff that I've seen as well. But yeah, so this film, obviously, it is an Invisible Man story. It's set in present day, as in when it was filmed. So, you know, like it's sort of early 90s. It's set in that era. Basically, Chevy Chase plays this individual who's, you know, a bit of a cocky sort of businessman type of a person who goes to this seminar in this. It's in a building where they're doing scientific experiments as well. But he's knackered and all this sort of thing. He's tired because he's had a night out on the Raz the night before, and this is where he's met Daryl Hannah and sort of got involved with her on the night before, and he's making plans to meet up with her again a bit later down the line. But while he's at this seminar, he's like dozing off, he ain't interested and that, so he decides to go find somewhere quiet to have a nap, and in doing so he inadvertently causes a series of events by asking someone where the toilet is, that this accident occurs, shall we say. The building gets abandoned, but he goes off and he's dozing and he's asleep, and you know, something happens with experimentations that are doing in the building, and it basically causes parts of the building to vanish. So you're looking at a structure with sort of invisible holes in it, so to speak, so you can see through it, sort of thing. Obviously, because Chevy Chase's character in Holloway is in the building, he's been affected as well, and he's completely invisible. Yeah, so this leads to the introduction of Sam Neill's character, David Jenkins, who's like a shadowy CIA sort of operative who's, you know, who sort of makes up his own rules. A shifty, shady character who, you know, from from the start that he isn't quite all there, that he's one of these sort of nasty CIA agents. If he has to kill you, he will kill you, that type of an individual. And he goes after Nick Holloway, and so that's essentially the film. That's what it's about. It's him chasing after him, trying to get him because he wants to... He sees him as this potential for the future of spying and this sort of a thing, and wants to bring him into his ranks and use him essentially as an operative. And if he can't have him, then he'll kill him. Essentially, yeah. So, you know, the film itself, okay. So, this film, where do I begin? Now, like I said, it's... Even though John Carpenter's name attached, it hasn't got his sort of signature type of a style to it that you would expect from a John Carpenter film. We'll come into that in a bit, a little bit of trivia around that sort of area of the film. Now, for me, it's a bit of a mixed film, a mixed bag, right? Because on the one hand, you've got Chevy Chase. Now, I like Chevy Chase. I think he's quite a good comedian. I think he's, you know, some of the films he used to do I really liked. And in this film, you know, there is an element of humour to his role. The way he delivers his lines, you know, there's humour's there in the concept of the Invisible Man, with the stuff that he does, the way he acts, and with the special effects and all that sort of a thing. There's an element of humour. But then on the other flip side of that is everyone else is playing the film seriously. You know, Sam Neill's character, Daryl Hannah's character, they're all relatively serious when compared to how Chevy Chase is delivering. So for me, I feel like the film isn't entirely sure what it wants to be. Now, the film sort of fits into 4 genre categories, that being sci-fi, thriller, comedy, and there's one other and I can't recall what it is. But yeah, it fits into 4 categories. So the thriller side of it and the comedic side doesn't exactly meld together, in that you've got Chevy Chase doing what Chevy Chase does. Now, it's very difficult to take Chevy Chase seriously anyway, because once you've seen him as Clark Griswold and things like that, I just can't take the guy seriously whatsoever. But not that that's a bad thing for this film. It's not. It's an enjoyable, fun film. Now, the film delivers some fantastic special effects, and you've got to think about the era that this was set in, filmed in, like the early 90s. You know, The Abyss obviously dabbled with CGI in the late 80s. Yeah, and you didn't have Jurassic Park out yet and things like that. CGI was in its infancy, so this film relied on special effects that were practical. And when you're watching it, it's quite amazing how they've done some of the stuff in this film. It's very cleverly done. I mean, the set of the building at the beginning, when you get close-ups and you can see the sort of, you know, between the floors and this sort of thing, it looks very, very good. It looks fantastic. You know, bits where he's the Invisible Man, Chevy Chase, well, he's not Chevy, he's invisible, unwrapping a chewing gum, pops it in his mouth and he's chewing, you see it going around and that, and then you see him like spit it out when he's smoking, and you see the inhalation of the smoke into the lungs, you know, and when he's eating, you see it in his stomach and being digested, and then he's vomiting it up. There's, you know, there's this sort of stuff that's just, it looks really good. It looks, you know, I mean, you know, some of it's done with animatronics in the sense that when it's like, you know, he's wearing a mask and he takes off, the glasses are taken off, and but it's just very good. It's just, you know, they used a lot of different tricks within the film to employ their special effects, and it looks fantastic for what it does. Chevy Chase is very good in it, in that he's Chevy Chase, right? Sam Neill, he's pretty good in anything he does. Daryl Hannah's very good in the film, and her, chemistry with Chevy Chase is fantastic. The same with Chevy Chase and Sam Neill. Sam Neill just delivers in this film. I don't know. There's an elegance to his performance that I really like. The scenes where he's talking to the Invisible Man, and the Invisible Man isn't there. It's at the time. There's no one there. He's talking to nothing. It's just very good, and you get the sense that he is talking to someone he can't see. He's not looking at anything. He's not focused on anything, because he wouldn't be, and that's really good. Now, for me, where the film does fall down is that it feels like a film of two halves, in that there's a distinct point in the film where it does wane a bit. That as an interest curve, you'd be going along like this, and then you drop at a certain point, and then you're lower, but then to come back towards the end. Now this point in the film is when Chevy Chase's character decides to leave the city and go and sort of spend his time in this little house on the coast where his friend lives, uses it as a summer home, to hide away. And then obviously Daryl Hannah and that turns up at this place because his friend has decided to come out there and have a little weekend away. So basically, up to that point, I don't know what it is. The first half of the film deals with a lot of the Sam Neill stuff and the stuff between him and Sam Neill and this sort of thing before he decides to get away from the city. And that's a lot more fast-paced than what the second half of the film is, when he's with Daryl Hannah and exploring their relationship. So, so that first half feels stronger. Apart from Daryl Hannah meeting Daryl Hannah at the beginning of the film, you don't see her again until this point in the film. So it's like she disappears for a huge chunk of the movie because she's narratively not needed at that juncture in the film. But other than that, it's a good film. The special effects are amazing. It's just got identity issues, that's what I say, and a little bit of a lull later on. But other than that, it's a pretty damn good film. Not necessarily a John Carpenter film, but we're going to come into that now, or in a minute, I should say. Now, I can't not mention the musical score in this film, because the musical score was done by Shirley Walker. Now, Shirley Walker has did work with John Carpenter again after this on Escape from LA. But she'd also done musical scores for films like Final Destination 1, 2 and 3. She'd done the Spawn TV series, Todd McFarlane comic book character that there was a live action movie for, the TV series of that, which was an animated TV series. She'd also done The Flash, and I'm not talking about the current Flash TV series. I'm talking about the John Wesley Shipp one from the late 80s, early 90s, that lasted one season. She'd done Batman Mask of the Phantasm, 31 episodes of the Batman animated TV series. So she's done a wealth of stuff, Space Above and Beyond. So she's quite renowned and well known in her field, and the musical score in this film is apt for the movie. It elevates scenes that it requires to be elevated. Now, it's not a musical score that anything really sticks to your mind, or it's not a musical score that me personally would step away and think, do you know what, I want that bit of music, I want to listen to that bit of music again outside of the context of the film, but it works for the film. So again, that's fantastic. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to step into a little area of trivia about this film, and I'm going to give you some trivia on the movie itself. So let's get into that. Okay, so first off, now this movie, Ivan Reitman was actually originally set to direct the film, but when he and the film's main star Chevy Chase constantly had heated arguments over the film's tone, Reitman refused to work with Chase and demanded the studio choose between him or Chevy Chase, and they chose Chevy Chase. yeah, Ivan Reitman, as you know, is the director of Ghostbusters 1 and 2, Evolution, films like that. Now, for me personally, I think Ivan Reitman may have been a better fit for the film than John Carpenter, if they could agree on the sort of comedic tone of the film. But, you know, it is what it is. One particular device that Chevy Chase had to wear for the film was a set of blue eyeball-sized contact lenses, so his eyes would appear invisible with his face looking like a mask, but with empty eye sockets. Now, this was the scene where Daryl Hannah cakes him in makeup to give him a face back. Yeah, you know, if you've never seen the film, you know the scene I'm talking about. But for him to wear these, his eyes had to actually be numbed with sedative medication beforehand. So that must have been really rough on him to do. The lenses had special miniature pinholes so that Chevy Chase could see through them. However, after about 15 minutes of wearing them, Chase would demand shooting to stop so he could remove them, sometimes ruining entire shots and pushing filming back by several hours. Now, I understand, you know, Chevy Chase is meant to be quite a difficult actor to work with. You know, we've heard these stories before. But I can't blame him on this occasion. Who would like to have their eyes sedated so you could wear these stupid blue things? The things these actors go through, really, you know, I do feel sorry for them. But yeah. Okay, so the soundtrack that we spoke about by Shirley Walker, right? So this film has the honour of actually being the first major Hollywood studio picture with a complete orchestral score written by a woman. That's quite impressive, really, especially in the day and age that we sort of live in now. And this is obviously one of the few John Carpenter directed movies in which Carpenter himself did not act as composer. And Kirstie Alley from Cheers, Star Trek 2, she was actually considered for the role of Alice Munro that Daryl Hannah eventually got. So yeah, you know, some decent stuff there. You know, interesting little facts about the film. So yeah, some interesting stuff there, a few little bits. Let's get into some goofs within the movie, and then we might call it a day. So let's talk about some continuity and goof errors. At the start of the film, Nick is wearing a three-piece suit when he goes to the seminar, but when he wakes up after the accident, he's only wearing a two-piece suit, not the vest. These things happen. When Nick is holding the gun to Jenkins's head, he pulls the hammer back, but the trigger doesn't move. In fact, the trigger is already in the firing position before Nick cocks the hammer. Now, there are other little mistakes, like filming errors where, like, Nick casts a shadow, which obviously if he was invisible he wouldn't do. There wouldn't be no shadow. And this is before, like I said, CGI and these things would be taken out. And also, in a scene that we've spoken about where Chevy Chase is smoking a cigarette, the smoke is shown going in and out of his lungs. He is speaking at the same time that he inhales the smoke. But yeah, so there's just a few little trivia and bits for you, bits and pieces. But anyway, so that's it. I'm going to wrap it up there. So in conclusion, it's a film that I enjoyed, but it's a film that I know has an identity issue. But it's a fun movie, you know, given its flaws. Now, this film, like I said, it was done on a budget of 40 million. It only took 14.5 million at the box office, worldwide box office. So it wasn't a financial hit at all. In fact, it was a bit of a failure. So, yeah. But anyway, so that was it. I'm going to leave it there. So thanks to Joseph Grant for asking me to take a look at this film and give my thoughts on it, and I have done. I've given an honest review. I'm guessing that Joseph obviously likes the film quite a bit, and who am I to question his judgment? You know, art is subjective, film is art, but yeah, but no, it's an enjoyable film. I hadn't seen it for a long time. It has its issues, but just something I'd revisit again. Of course it is, yeah. Anyway, so this is AJ. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got a film that you would like me to take a look at, give it a review of, then drop me a comment down below. I do reply to all comments. And, you know, I will get around to it eventually. It might take 2 or 3 weeks because I have quite a busy schedule. But yeah, anyway, thanks again. Take care all, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.